Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up for today's episode of Servant Leadership Library. Joining us is the parking's world's very own maestro, Larry Cohen, who's been steering the Lancaster Parking Authority for a solid 14 years. Under his guidance, this organization has become best in class, an accredited parking organization, and has reached new heights, including the groundbreaking development of the Christian Street Garage and retail project. But Barry isn't just, or Larry's just not into parking spaces and garages. He's also an accomplished author with two titles under his belt, starting with The Quirky World of Parking. And if that wasn't enough, he's got a TV comedy in the work. Yes, you heard it. That's right. A comedy about parking. Who knew the world of parking could be so entertaining? We're thrilled to have such a multifaceted leader in the house today. So without further ado, let's dive into the conversation with Larry, guided by the host, Nicholas Paluco, CEO of One-to-One, your go-to experts in managed IT and cybersecurity consulting. So welcome, Larry. I appreciate you being on with us today.
Thank you. That was a heck of an introduction.
Man, you
I hope I
deserve
can live up to it.
it. You definitely will. Well, we appreciate it. Larry, why don't you tell our audience? So our audience comes from multifaceted of people trying to develop their leadership skills, others that have been in it. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself personally? You know, where did you come from, kind of your education, what you feel will help in our conversation today?
Yeah, I think folks might be surprised that I was kind of a lost soul growing up. I was a scrapper. Nothing was handed to me. I worked my way through high school and college. I went to Kutztown University here, working for a parking company.
Mm-hmm.
And when I graduated college, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had friends who were high achievers. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a doctor. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And obviously, it was a tough position to be in when you graduate from college and you don't know where your life's going to take you and what your life's meaning is. And I tried a couple different things, and somehow I said I miss like my part-time job of being around cars and parking. So I started my own parking company. Grew up outside Philadelphia.
Really?
Started in the basement of my parents' house. And started a valet company. Didn't know what I was doing. I was 23 years old, but I knew customer service could be the road to success. Do things better, nicer, with more attention to the details. That's kind of if you want to put some notes down, attention to the little details is the difference between average and exceptional. I was never book smart. I was an average student, but I knew that I had a really strong work ethic, and I was street smart, scrappy kid. And I thought that could take me a long way, but who knows when you're young.
Yeah.
So I set out, started my own business, got lucky, very lucky, got a contract at the old Veterans Stadium where the Phillies and Eagles played to provide valet parking for what they call the luxury boxes at the luxury boxes at Veterans Stadium, which many years ago, the former owner of the Eagles, a guy named Norman Brayman, tried to sell the team to Arizona or have it moved to Arizona. And the city's concession was to build these luxury boxes and probably the worst seats in the whole stadium.
Really?
So that was a really big get for us as a small entrepreneur starting out, and had that business for many years, but really put my whole life into it, that I didn't have a life, no wife, no dating, just work. And at about 30 or so, I said, maybe it's time for something new. I sold my business, took a year off, did some consulting work. I'd gotten some national press like Nick has as a young entrepreneur, and did some other things, and then kind of missed the business. And there was an opportunity to start up a new program at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital. They liked my
Wow.
entrepreneurial background. I came in and built a program up for them with valet parking and acquiring parking garages and just built a program up for the hospital side that the university wasn't fulfilling, and did that for a while. Got recruited to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, moved out of Philadelphia, moved to Baltimore. I was there for many years. A little stint as a VP of consulting for an architecture engineering firm. Didn't like that world. Got back in the ops at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and then um, came here 15 years ago.
Wow, that is an amazing story. I can relate because I was not Mr. Book Smart all the time, right? When I hit college, that was a different story. But I always wanted to create and develop when I was in high school, which meant like, all of those classes weren't as important. But that's pretty impressive. I mean, like Philly is a large area, and you grew that business. How old were you when you started that business?
23.
Wow, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
I mean, not many people have the ability to do that. That's very impressive. And to then sell it too, right? Like you didn't stop and just let it, fizzle out. You had the opportunity to sell it. Tell us a little bit more about that. I can remember my first experience in selling a landscape business that I started, and I learned a lot about people through that. So I'm kind of curious, what did you learn through that process?
Yeah, well, a little bit deeper dive into that. As I said, there's that great list of the qualities that don't take someone. There's a list of qualities you need that you don't have to, that you have control over,
Yeah,
have good
yeah,
attendance, and
yeah.
so I kind of live by that mantra. I think when I started the business, especially for the valet side, and I mean, the people's houses that was at growing when I was working was unbelievable. I worked at Dr. J's house, Patti LaBelle's
Wow.
house, Teddy Pendergrass's house, Ed Snyder, owner of the Flyers house. I mean, all
Wow.
these, the rich and famous of Philadelphia, I literally was at their doorstep every day. And when I worked for the other company and I started my own, I saw that we could do it a better way. We literally gave away long stem silk roses to all of
Ah,
our guests as a thank you for parking with us for the night, which I also put our business card on
yeah.
with the slogan "Parking with Style," Valley Parking with Style, or something like that. Company was called Premier Parking, so got a lot of press, and so just finding a little kind of niche
Yeah.
like that, and a little, I bought a lot of silk roses over the years, boxes and boxes of silk roses that were relatively inexpensive, but went a long way in building my business. Um, yeah, I got burned out though,
Yeah.
um, and maybe I was too young to know better. When you start a business when you're young, as you know, sometimes that's the best time to do it. You don't have
Yeah.
family obligations. You don't. You think you can do anything. You don't.
Yeah.
So, but I literally got kind of burned out, and yeah, someone offered me more money than I had ever had when I started with three. I started with $3,000,
Wow.
and 2/3 of that went to pay for insurance.
Wow.
And talked to companies about insuring a 23-year-old who's never been in business before about starting a valet company where he's going to be driving Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis, and try to get them to insure you. No one in the United States would insure me back then.
Really?
And I actually ended up being insured through Lloyd's of London.
Really?
And Lloyd's of London is known for taking all the high risk, high profile insurance, like Madonna's legs and Taylor Swift's voice, and yeah, they just insure all these obscure things. So it was almost a badge of honor that I was insured with all these famous and rich people, and I had this little parking company back then. So
That's
just
amazing. And I mean,
yeah,
many people talk about like, I can't start a business because I don't have a lot of money. And I think our stories align, right? Like I came from a family that we were working, my dad was working two or three jobs. So there was no money to be given. And it's amazing, right? Like when you put that time and energy and emotion and everything into it, it allows you to kind of, as you said, scrappy, right? It gives you that drive compared to somebody giving you the money and you trying to figure it out. I think makes a big difference. I mean, for me, it was the same thing, right? But I call ignorance was bliss. I was so young that I really didn't know what the problems could be. So it was like, oh man, I'm not thinking about that. I'm just really trying to get it off the ground. But if I did it today, I'd probably come up with all of these reasons why not to do it.
Yeah, and I get asked many times through the years, oh, is it, from other entrepreneurs that I'm friends with, like, do you ever regret selling your business? Do you wish you started your business today? And you make a great entrepreneur. And you don't regret things in life, whether successes
Right.
or failures. But I think what it's helped me in the role that I have many, many years later is I run we're an independent municipal authority. So we're not part of the city. People think we're part of the city. No, we run like a small business within the city. So even throughout my career, I've always maintained that entrepreneurial background and spirit and way of conducting business, even though I worked for a university or I worked for a hospital.
Mm,
The success has come from caring about the business, treating the money like it's yours,
right.
running it like a business. And so those early lessons of owning my own business, although I don't have that business today, I do consulting on the side now, but those same characteristics have followed me through the years. Um, so it's worked out,
Yeah, that's wonderful.
okay.
Congratulations on that. It's always wonderful to meet someone that's gone through the same process of kind of going from ground zero and up. I always say I'm part of some of these groups and that they're second generation and other business owners, but there's a difference between a business owner and someone who's an entrepreneur that created it from ground zero. I'm not saying one is better than another, but it definitely comes from a different perspective of conversation if
Nick,
you're in a group.
I'd be okay if my dad was a multi-billionaire and I was the second or third generation running his business. I could
Oh,
get,
no, you wouldn't. You like
I'd
to
figure it
create.
out.
I know it. I know it.
No, yeah, I like to do. I don't like to get handed anything. I kind of, my path has been interesting, and I look back on a life, and whoever's listening to this, and maybe the younger generation, when you look back in your life, and there's key points in your life of when you turn left versus right, how
Right.
that changes and impacts your life,
Yeah.
um, and the direction you go. Like I was just having a conversation over the weekend with a friend in Pittsburgh, and 3-hour drive out, and I'm saying, I wonder how my life would have. I mean, obviously your life would be different, but I wonder how my life would have been different if I grew up in a different city.
Right.
Um, just that. Like I grew up in a
Yeah.
different city versus Philadelphia, suburban Philadelphia. How would that have changed life? Would it change it dramatically?
Yeah.
But I think inherently you still have your same characteristics. I think if you're successful and some of those things change, you're still going to be successful. Maybe I would have been, we'll get to it a lot later on, but if I grew up in Hollywood, would I
Yeah.
have been
Right.
the parking guy at the studio? Or would I, so uh who knows, right? It's
That's right.
that's what happens when you get old. You look back and you wonder kind of if I
You
went left,
reflect.
right, or those kinds of things. I'm getting a little deep here early, Nick.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. And I think one thing that you said that I think was paramount, that's what I learned at a young age too, is the attention to detail, right? And I think the founder of our friend of Apple said the same things, right? If you make the small things unforgettable, then that's really what's important. And I think it's really profound too, because you see in the garages that you all manage and the things you do in the city. I mean, the attention to detail, the cleanliness, and even from communication, right? Like you have your face out there that says, call me, right? Like we're here for you. I think that's quite different than other places that you go, right? And I think you've said it before, like most people think of garages and other things that we'll get into are just kind of these dark, dingy places, and you guys kind of bringing them to life, even to the point of I see we have signage now, digital signage on the
Yeah.
garages. So that it's kind of neat. It's really
Well,
neat.
you hit a sore point with me. I'm a terrible investor, when Steve Jobs left Apple, I said I'd never invest in that company. And then of course, came back. No, I think and my staff, it is the attention to detail. It is getting out of the office, which is
Mhm.
sometimes harder, walking around, seeing what's going on. My staff's used to me. If there's a peeling sticker, I'll send a picture. We have to, I
Yeah,
mean, they're just used to the it's, I don't, I mean, it's really not micromanaging, but they might think it is at times. But no, but my staff understands me and how we want to be the best at what we do. And that is the attention to detail. So they're used to really anything
right.
I see that I don't think it needs to be better, that they're going to get a little picture of that to take care of it. And they believe in the same level of service and care and appearance of the service, of what we provide, and that's
Right.
parking, obviously.
Well, I think it's that that attention to detail is what people remember probably, right? Like that experience of that in the facilities, right? Like so I really enjoy that and I really respect that because that's what makes people or situations different, right? I always say, hey, when I go to I should have went to Universal Studios parking garage first and then went to Disney because way different experience, right? Like I'm greeted in the parking lot at Disney, and then Universal, there was a different experience, right?
Yeah.
But you remember that's the first thing you enter, you know?
Well, we all hyper focus in on, and thank you for your attention to the parking, Nick. But we all hyper focus in on what we know best. So of course, whenever I go to anything, and I've done consulting with Disney, yeah, I'm hypersensitive to the transportation
Right.
and the parking and the cleanliness and the signage and the um, all those things are very critical for my eye, and what our industry provides to our customers,
Customers.
whether it's Lancaster or anywhere else in the country, an airport parking facility, a entertainment venue, university or other.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of great skills, but directionally challenged in a parking garage is not one of them. And so, like, signage means a lot, right? Like, I frequently fly out of Philly, and that's like my most stressful part is like, wait, they're all labeled the same on every floor of every garage. I don't even know where I'm at, right? And so, like, it can be a very stressful thing too from a larger perspective, or at least maybe I'm the only one that gets stressed out when he can't find his car. But I'm like, I swear I was on this level. Oh, wait, but it was two of the garages down. It's labeled the same on the same floor. And so maybe that's just me.
No, it's very simple. What we want to make sure we provide ease of access in a clean facility, a well lit facility, a safe facility, um, and ease of payment. Even though no one wants to pay for parking, we should at least make it easy, and we should provide ease of access, ease of exit.
Yeah.
Parking. One of my favorite sayings is, "Parking should be a non-event. Parking should be something that's seamless. You don't think about, you just do it.
You just do it.
So we're
Yeah.
doing our job if you don't think about it, and it's a non-event."
Yeah, I love it. I experienced one down the other day, and there was an issue. And man, the team is right on it. From a customer service and stress point, they're like, just leave the garage, even though it can't. But I didn't pay. They're like, listen, we'll handle that, but at least feel the comfort of exiting and not being trapped in there. And they did a really nice job. And I think that makes a big difference in places that you go that you kind of feel alone too. But from your perspective, what drew you with your story, which is so amazing, and you're from a big city? What drew you to Lancaster County to work with the Lancaster Parking?
I probably attribute it to college. Like I could have
Okay,
gone to Penn State, or Kutztown, and I chose Kutztown. I think it's a little bit of a big fish in a smaller sea.
I
Like
see.
somewhere, I guess my comfort zone is being somewhere where you can really make an impact.
Mm.
and it's felt and known in the community. Um, so I was able to do that in college. I mean, in high school, I couldn't wait to graduate high school. Like, get me the heck out of here. And 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 college, I never wanted to leave because I matured and I got involved and active and things. And I said, oh wow, okay, I can make a difference. So I think it. And I've worked in Philly, I've worked in Baltimore, I've worked in Washington D.C., I've worked in New York City. But I think my comfort was Lancaster, someplace like Lancaster. And when I came up for my interview, they had just opened the convention center.
Okay.
And when I talked to business leaders as part of my interview, it was such a positive feeling, positive environment, entrepreneurial environment, everyone heading in the same direction,
Mm.
and different opinions of how to get there. But and then obviously seeing the city and seeing the potential and the growth, just I fell in love with it right away. And I said, this is where I have to be. And I have to tell you, it's almost embarrassing. I actually, for my second book, I went back and had a file of like every job I ever applied for and had interviews for, and the numbers are ridiculously outrageous. And I used to say my career was a 7-year itch. So every 7 years, I was ready for something new. Either I got bored and wanted a new
Mm.
challenge, or whatever the case may be. So I feel very blessed. I'll be entering my 15th year in January.
Wow.
Like I just, for probably hopefully my final landing spot of this type of profession. I feel very blessed and lucky that the kind of the moons aligned, and yeah, just it's been a lot of highs and lows, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think that's a kind of testament to the entrepreneurial journey of yourself, right? You kind of get that itch to create and do something new. And talk about a little bit from starting your own business to kind of moving further up into your career, like leadership, right? We all talk about leadership, good, bad, or indifferent, but like from the start of owning your own company to where you're at now, like what did that journey look like from a leadership perspective? What did you learn? What could you tell us?
Yeah, so well, first I'll say it's funny that I've written 2 books, but I don't really read a lot of books because I don't have the
Ah,
attention
okay.
span to read books. I
Okay.
have a very short attention span. Somehow I was able to write a book through, but COVID helped that. But
Okay.
here's very basic principles that I think most leaders use, and uh, treat your employees how you want to be treated,
Mm.
and sometimes that burns. Sometimes folks take advantage of that,
Mhm.
but if you hire the right people, they don't. And yeah, hire folks with the same qualities, high qualities that you look for in your wife or your partner.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because it is a marriage, it's your daytime marriage.
Hmm.
Um, and no, I think as a young entrepreneur, yeah, see, I don't want to sit here and say everything was great because as a young entrepreneur, I hired a lot of friends. I started out
Mm.
just hiring friends,
Friends. Yeah.
and friends were the ones that I thought I could trust, and some of them were not the ones I could trust. Um, I hired them because they were friends, but I didn't really hire them because they were going to be the best to promote and support my business.
Business.
And
Yeah.
some of them were um, very self-fulfilling, very narcissistic
Mm.
in their deep down, and they did things to benefit themselves, which um, was detrimental to my business. So
Mm.
I did lose some friendships from owning my own business, which was very sad. Some friendships maintained, but others were lost in a in the business environment. So sometimes friends are great to work with, or families great to work with, and sometimes it's not. Right? There's
Yeah.
family fights. There's families that don't talk to one another. So early lessons learned is really the most important thing, is learning about people. And I think, and I have older boys now, and I don't want to say, I don't want to be an old fart who says my generation was better than this generation, but I think we've lost, through technology, and everyone's on the computer. Of course, my son, everyone would say he's on the computer too much. He's on the computer too much, and he made a very good career out of being on computers. So I never kicked him off the computer, but the basis of personal relationships and actually being able to converse with one another.
Yeah.
And even on the outside of like being involved in like Rotary, or I'm
Right.
involved with Rotary, American Business Club, and these organizations are not doing great because the younger generation doesn't value uh, that time to spend
Right.
creating relationships and partnerships and those kinds of things. So uh, yeah, I value, as I said, I've never been really book smart, but I just value the personal relationship with clients and with employees. But that evolved over the years. Like, yeah,
Right.
you have to hire the best person with the qualities that you need. At the end of the day, up and coming leaders, you're their boss. You know, you're your children's parents.
Mhm.
Like, it's not the goal. My goal is not to be my children's best friend.
Right.
My goal is to be the best parent I can be. If we're friends from that, so be it. And I say the same thing
Right.
to my employees. I'm here to be your boss. Respect one another. Do the best job you can. And if we're friends from that, fine. But I'm not here to be friends.
Friends.
And
Right.
you have to differentiate that. I don't even know if I answered your question, but
No, that answers it well. I can relate there too because when I started, I had some friendships that brought into the business, and you grow potentially faster than they grow sometimes, and it has created some definite same stories, right? We're not friends any longer, or there's a separation, or there's some level of disdain, and that's a rough one because it clouds your judgment, or it clouded my judgment.
and jealousy.
Yes.
I've never. I think we should all learn never let money influence how we are. Uh, I am so be thrive in other folks' success, even though it's not your success. Be happy for their success. Don't be jealous.
Right.
Don't be angry if it's your friend or whatever. There's a lot of that,
Yeah.
and I'm just thrilled to death for folks who do better than me. I mean, you do the best you can for yourself, but never
Right.
don't let the evil of money, um, you know, influence how you are, how you build your career, how you deal with your friends and counterparts.
Or the
Because
root of evil of comparison, right?
there's always going to be someone doing better than you. At the end of the day, control what you could control. Be the best that you can be for yourself
Right.
and your family. Do the best you could be. And if you're not happy in your situation, do something else. I've had plenty of employees. Actually, I had a senior level person, and I had to be blunt with them. I said, "Are you happy here?
Mm,
Are you happy here?" Because it was not showing in how he was conducting himself with fellow employees.
I
Very
see.
smart guy. And he said, "No, I'm not really happy." I said, "Then you need to leave. I'd
Right.
love to keep you. I'd love for you to stay here, but you need to leave. Life is short.
Right.
Find happiness in what you do. Find happiness in your work, in your life, and you'll do a lot better."
Better. I hear you. Well, kind of switching subjects a little bit. We mentioned that the Lancaster Parking Authority kind of is best in class. So what makes Lancaster's Parking Authority best in class compared to the others? Could you enlighten us?
Yes, I once had a neighbor. I told my neighbor I was writing a book during COVID, and my neighbor laughed, like a lot of people laugh, and they say, "What can't you tell me in 5 minutes about parking that I don't already know?" I said, "Well, somehow I filled a whole book worth of it." But um, I've always strived for excellence um, in everything I do, and I thought it was important that this program that my international organization has, accredited parking organization, that any organization in the country can apply for. Not everyone gets
Mm,
accredited,
okay.
but it levels the playing field.
Mm,
So you could take an organization as big as a whatever, I'm not going to say, let's just say as big as a Philly Parking Authority and the Lancaster Parking Authority, and they have 100 times more revenue than we have. But I thought it was important to say, you know what? I'm in Lancaster running Lancaster Parking Authority. I think we do things just as well as any big city in the
mm,
country, and this program played truth to that. So there's a bet people to see, it's parking. It's not professional. It's just people, they're just taking money, but it's obviously a diverse. We deal with construction, we deal with design, we deal with economic development, we deal with personnel, we deal with cash handling. Of course, we deal with technology. I like to say, like Tesla said, we're a tech company parking cars. I
mm.
coined the phrase, we're now a tech company parking cars.
Oh, okay.
I have like two full-time tech people on my team. Um, so I thought it was important that for the community as well as for my organization to say Cohen's not just going rogue here and making crazy decisions in how we do things, but we're following best practices on a national level of how we
Mhm.
conduct business. So being an accredited parking organization tells the public, tells my stakeholders that we're functioning at a best practice level.
I love that. And you delve a little bit more into that because a lot of people, I think we say all the time, or you probably hear all the time, like, what's involved in parking, and I can only take my experience of living in the community. I mean, just from a project of integrating a library and bringing people together so that they're able to park and participate in city activities. What are things that people don't know about the parking service that would astound us?
So I'm actually, I've canned a presentation that I've been sharing with my peers around the country, uh, called "We Do More Than Park Cars and Write Tickets,"
Mm,
and it outlines 15 different things that we're involved in other than parking cars and writing tickets. And as I gave you kind of a laundry list of some of the things we do internally, we're involved in the arts. We're involved in keeping the streets clean. We're involved in promoting the city. We're involved in economic development.
mm.
We're involved in special events downtown. Believe it or not, some of the major companies that have moved downtown recently, or in the last several years, they wouldn't sign on the dotted line to move downtown until parking was
What is
arranged. So, so I sat with the CEOs of more than one company, making sure that we can accommodate the needs downtown. So, um, we're ambassadors for the city. We have folks on the
Mhm.
streets, and we did a little video that's on YouTube under the Lancaster Parking Authority channel. We took our parking enforcement officers. I said, I don't want to show them writing citations. I want to show them doing things other than that. And that's providing directions to people, providing
Ah,
information. Um, so it runs the gamut of, and I could go on and on. There's about 15 things that I've highlighted in this presentation that were involved and that people are like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I get that. That is, you know, core outside of our core responsibility, but I think integral to what we provide to the community.
yeah, I think we wouldn't be from what I'm hearing from you, we wouldn't be as thriving in the city if we weren't able to get people to actually come into the city and be able to park and be able to participate in all the new growth that's here. Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's two major complaints that people usually say, like it's access to parking and it's cost.
right.
Okay. Another one of my favorite sayings is parking should be friendly, not free.
Hmm.
Obviously, we have to pay for our staff and what we do every day. We have to charge. I'm very proud of the rates we charge, and our garages are pretty darn
Right.
low. Anyone coming from
Yeah.
any big city, they chuckle. It's
Yeah.
$2 for the first hour, $2 for the second, $1 thereafter. pretty reasonable to park all day for probably under $10.
Absolutely.
Um, and remember, we have an infrastructure of 7 garages, over 5,000 parking spaces in garages that are over 30, mostly 30, 40, 50 years old.
Wow.
So we have to put in millions of dollars every year to keep them at a state of good repair, is the
Right.
term. Making sure that our garage, our Prince Street garage, which is like almost 50 years old, but looks like a newer garage, or Penn
Right.
Square garage. Our mayor said to me, I went to a town I won't name. I parked in the garage. I was scared. It was
Mm.
dim, dark, poorly lit, dirty. I come back and park in our garages. I'm amazed um, at how beautiful they are, and they're really old. So you know, the money that we make goes right back into
Mm.
supporting the keeping these facilities in a state of good repair, putting technology in place so that you could pay by your phone on the street. You can drive in the garage with your license plate without even touching anything, like Easy Pass. And then also maintaining, because I look at a parking program as a macro program. It's it's the macro of on street and off street, making sure that there's on street parking available for the business community. When
Right.
there wasn't enforcement on Saturdays, it was the business community that said we want enforcement, because
Ah.
employees were parking on the streets all day, and we want to make sure those spaces are free so that that individual will park close to that
Ah.
building. Real quick, I tell a story about, if you go to Park City Mall, you could park a mile away from where your destination is, but you don't feel like you're that far away because it's in line of
Mm.
sight. You come
Mm.
downtown and you park around the block from where you're going to go, and you feel like you're far away.
Ah.
So there's that perception and personal dynamic that it's really important for us to make sure, as best practice, that there's always one or two spaces and out of every 10 spaces available to park in
Mm.
that block, so that you could get to the business you need to get to.
I like that. And you talk about kind of like technology. How do you lead through that? How do you determine, how to keep up with those trends? I mean, kind of being best in class, right? That's a big deal. How do you stay in front of that? Where do you continually develop the Lancaster Parking Authority through that?
Well, with the help of one-to-one, um, well, actually, you have to remember, I've worked in big, small organizations. You have to assess where we're at. We're a third
Mm.
tier city. So larger cities like a DC or New York, uh, they could take, let me just say initially, or Pittsburgh even, they could be more trailblazers and they could take more risk
I
with
see.
certain things, because they're such a large city. They could do like more
Mm.
pilot programs in different areas. So I don't necessarily say that we blaze the trail,
Okay.
because the impact to us of some for the support of technology is significant versus a large organization.
Mm.
But I will say, when something's brought to my attention and it's a no-brainer, this is my leadership management style. I get approached for something, it's a no, I say this is a no-brainer and it's a win-win.
Mm.
I will do it right away.
Mm.
So, for example, the mobile app, payment by mobile app, which was a game changer in the parking industry less than 15 years ago. We were an early adapter of mobile app payment in the country, because they said, we're going to put it in. You don't have to pay for it.
Oh,
It's going
wow.
to, yeah. Oh, yeah. It doesn't cost me a penny. It's going to make your customer experience better. It's going to allow your customers to comply. Compliance is important to
Right.
me. Yes, I want you to pay to park on the street, versus enforcement. So, and case in point is the enforcement money that we collect, 90% of it goes to the city. We
Ah,
get our expenses covered plus a 10% management fee, but the majority of the money goes to the city. So
I
I
see.
rather folks comply and park at the meter, where I get 100% of the revenue, versus I don't want
Ah,
to give someone a citation. So compliance over enforcement, and the mobile app, people have the mobile app, their satisfaction with
Right.
parking goes through the roof, even though they have to pay a small fee
Right.
for that. To the point where, so we're over 10 years into the mobile app world. 90, I think we're at 94% of all of our on-street transactions are either through mobile app or credit card.
Wow.
So we are actually we are at the high end of best practice levels in the country for on-street mobile application. What does that do as a business leader? Well, it also secures my revenue. It lessens my back office accounting functions. It lessens my on-street collection of coin function. It lessens us counting coins. It goes on and on and on. So
Well, and as a
something like that has been
consumer,
great. Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. As a consumer, like I've been in meetings in the city, right? And you're like, well, I don't want to be rude and leave a meeting that I'm at to kind of put money in the meter. And but from an operational standpoint, it reminds me, it gives me a heads up. I can add dollars to it. Like it removes kind of the stress too as the consumer, which makes it great. And I don't know how you guys do all the wonderful things for how low cost the parking is, right? With family being in New York and Philly, um, it is a drastic difference. But I don't know how you make all the improvements you do with such a low rate. So thank you for allowing us as the consumer to participate in that.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're a nonprofit, and whatever we make just goes right back into the program. We're a very flat organization. So there's not a lot of levels. Everyone here is working pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll kind of share a little bit. So we talked about your leadership at the Parking Authority, a little bit about the one book that you wrote, which is amazing. I've seen you out on the book circuit and speaking about it. It's been really amazing. Congratulations on that. So
Thank you.
what's this little TV thing? What do I hear about that?
As I said, during COVID, the book, my first book, and I have two out now. The first book was a COVID project, and I didn't even know that I could write a book, but lots of YouTube helped, and it kind of took the mystery of writing a book away. So my book, The Quirky World of Parking, is on Amazon, and the I mean, the first book is a Parking 101, and then it tells all the crazy stories of running a parking authority. So every day there's something crazy or funny or nasty or sad
Mm.
that happens every day. And a lot of those stories are in the first. And the second book is just more stories that I just couldn't fit into the first. And I had folks talking to me like, oh, this would make a great TV show or comedy or whatever. So one, two, always try to, but you could never do that. So one that thrives on someone telling me that you can't do it, right? Wanted me to try to do it. So I spent a lot of trying. I figured, well, if I could figure out how to write a book, maybe I could figure out how to break into Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss. So I spent a lot of research trying to figure out, um, would anyone be interested in doing a story about a parking authority? Now there's a show called Parking Wars,
Wars. Yeah.
which is on Arts and Entertainment, and it's documentary style, following parking enforcement, booting, and towing at the Philly Parking Authority and the Detroit Parking Authority. Um, but this is more of like, like, okay, people understand what happens on the streets. They don't understand what happens behind the scenes. And that's what my book
Ah.
is. What happens from the seat that I sit in? What are the craziness and the
Mm.
crazy people we deal in situations we deal with internally that people never get to see? And that was the basis for the book, which I thought would be a good basis for a TV show in the model of a Parks and Rec
Oh,
meets
okay.
Parking Wars.
I love it.
So I spent a long time. I found an agent whose mission is to allow folks who don't have access to the entertainment industry to gain access to the entertainment industry.
Okay, okay.
So I entered an agreement with them. They hooked me up with a producer, and we spent well over a year developing
Wow.
what the format of a show would be at a parking authority, and who the characters would be. And then at the beginning of this year, we hired someone to write the pilot episode for the script.
Wow.
And about a month ago, it has been packaged and is now out into the Hollywood market, to the streaming services and networks, to see if anyone's interested in buying the concept.
That's awesome.
And my agent they have like a year to try to sell it.
That
So
is very impressive. Congratulations.
thank you.
I'm excited about that. It sounds like there could be a lot of content for for a show like that.
Well, it's inspired from the book,
Yeah.
from some of the stories in the book. So I kind of said we went from like the thought was a million to one thought. And then I got someone on board. We did something, now it becomes maybe 100,000 to one shot. And now that we're actually out the market, maybe it's a 10,000 to one shot that this happens. Based in Lancaster, not at the Lancaster Parking Authority, but the another renamed parking authority, more generic parking authority.
Well, congratulations on that. Very nice, Larry.
Thank you.
As we kind of work to kind of wrap up our time today, what advice would you give aspiring leaders who want to get started in their career, or they think that they have the skills to lead? What advice would you give them?
Well, I think hopefully everyone has a mentor that they can learn from. I'll give a tidbit story and then go back to that. But so I've left many organizations, and it is amazing when you have like your going away party, how many individuals who worked for you come up to you and say, that time that you patted me on the back, or that time that you gave me that note, or that time that you gave me some ideas, and you don't even remember it because it was just like one thing of 100 things you're doing every day. So remember that everything you do with folks, they remember. So I wanted to make sure I got that out. But hopefully you have a mentor. But if you don't have a mentor, and I talked about it earlier, there's lots of mentors out there that I never took advantage of in my youth. And that is getting involved in an organization like a Rotary or American Business Club, or reach out to an organization like SCORE. Like there's tons of retired, successful business people, entrepreneurs, leaders who are now at the stage of their life that they want to give back. So their time, they can give you time, they can give you suggestions. Especially in our community, get involved in Leadership Lancaster or things of this nature. You're not alone. You're not alone on your leadership path. I have an employee who tells me now, he's like, how do you always make the right decisions? You always make the right decisions. And I said, well, that's a benefit of being older, but it's also from being younger and making wrong decisions.
You're right.
Right. So you're not always going to make the right decisions, but learn by it, get better from it, mature, build yourself into a better leader, but take advantage of all the folks around you that I really never did.
Right.
A lot of times I really felt I was in a silo. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a teacher, where there's a lot of those folks in a city, right? I run a parking organization. There's one of me in the city.
Right.
And there's one in Pittsburgh, one in Philly. And, I get together with these guys maybe once or twice a year, and, we share similar stories. We're all dealing with the same things. But to me, it's up and coming. Take advantage of all the free resources there are. You just have to have, the willpower, the desire. You can't be shy. You got to have what I say in my home language of Yiddish. You have to have some chutzpah. You have to have some chutzpah. You have to have some guts to get out there and find your path forward.
I appreciate that. And as you know, would there be any resources, any books, any online things that you find that are helpful for you or you found helpful that maybe you could share?
So as I said, I got nervous when you started asking me what like the last book I read. Um, I read a lot of articles. Um, it would be totally improper for me to segue to my book here as a resource for everybody else. But I try to take advantage of all the podcasts and
Hmm.
online seminars and webinars and trainings that my organizations provide. Um, Ones that are in my comfort zone, but also ones that are outside my comfort zone. So,
Hmm.
for example, one Nick put on an amazing AI presentation, and I know nothing about AI, but I said, you know what, I gotta if I'm still working, I gotta learn about this.
Mm.
So, just nothing in particular other than take advantage of all the stuff that's free out
Available.
there,
Yeah.
because it's so easy today versus when I was young. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all this stuff. And learning how to write a book, learning how to publish a book. If I was doing this stuff 30, 40 years ago, I wouldn't have done it because I would have been like, or I would have had to go to a publisher,
Right.
right? Uh, but you can teach yourself to do anything. I taught myself how to contact Hollywood. I mean, that's crazy.
That is
Just by
crazy.
my wife's like, "What are you doing at midnight?" Well, I'm watching another YouTube video on how to, how to get an idea to Hollywood. So um, it's really, and then just I jot a lot of notes down and follow up on things.
I love it. I love the
There's no magic
research.
to my answer.
It's kind of like we do it in like small stints. Like I think that's great. Like I think what's different is generational wise, like we were taught how to do the research because we had to, right? And I
Yeah,
find really interesting there's other generations that are struggling to understand how do I even research that because everything was at their fingertips. And I never really recognized it that way because it just became natural, right? Like we had
yeah.
to know where to look for it. And so those are great sentiments. I appreciate you sharing that.
I said it at your seminar. AI today is the new Cliff Notes
You're
of
right.
my generation,
Yes.
and I was a really big Cliff Notes fan. Believe me.
We are in total agreement there.
Okay.
Well, Larry, any parting comments before we wrap up for today?
If you don't mind, I will do a selfless promotion.
Absolutely.
Um, so for anyone who wants to learn about parking or learn about leadership and crazy stories, here are the two books:
Love it.
The Quirky World of Parking and More Stories from the Quirky World of Parking. Um, Available on Amazon. Or if you're in the neighborhood, let me know and I'll get you a signed copy for $10. You can come by the parking office anytime.
I love it, and he means it, folks. I have a signed copy, but mine is a first rendition, so I'm saving mine for when it's big bucks.
When the TV show comes out, you'll say, I know him when.
That's right. I love it.
Yeah.
Larry, amazing, amazing conversation today, and we really appreciate you. And folks, that's a wrap on another enlightening episode of Servant Leadership Library. A big thank you to Larry Cohen for parking himself in our studio today and giving us a VIP tour of his leadership journey, from managing the Lancaster Parking Authority to developing urban landmarks and even venturing into the world of comedy. Larry's insights have truly shown us that there is no such thing as a boring day in the world of parking. If you enjoyed this episode and want to dive deep into the quirky world of parking and leadership, don't forget to check out Larry's books on Amazon and keep an eye out for that upcoming TV comedy. And remember, whether you're running a parking empire or leading an IT and cybersecurity firm, leadership can drive you to new heights. Until next time, keep leading with service and stay tuned to Servant Leadership Library. I'm your host, Nicholas Paluco, reminding you to stay secure, stay savvy, and always leave space for excellence.